Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel, and I'm here to talk to you about a Leeds United based sponsor on the channel, teamwallart.com. The link is in the description. Worldwide shipping, and it's unbelievable, guys. As I've told you before, this is the sort of stuff that you can get from these guys. My favourites on the end here, accused of everything, guilty of nothing since 1919. You can get this one for £5.99 if you buy another one for £7.99, and I did that. I've got the one of Marcelo Bielsa here, a beautiful image, really good quality as well, by the way, and of course the title winning boys. Some really good stuff on there, guys. As I said, the link is in the description. I went to these guys. I love this sort of stuff, and they are Leeds United fans. Go check it out. Enjoy the video. One Leeds is now sponsored by One Football. One Football is a really classy app. You can get all of your Leeds United updates on this app. You can get all the transfer news, injury news, match day news, and it really is top quality. The most downloaded app regarding football on the site. So make sure you go check it out. The link is in the description, and I hope you enjoy the video, guys. Hello everybody, welcome back to Connor here. Hope you're all doing fantastically well. We're back here with an opposition preview, and we've got Max with us. He's had rock and roll. He's had an intro which is beyond it. What an incredible intro that was. And he's in behind now, just in the studio. I'm going to get him on. I hope you're all doing fantastically well. Hey up sunshine. And this a Huddersfield Town shirt. Give your head a shake. Argentina, Marcelo Bielsa, 1978, Mario Kempes. Give your head a shake, Huddersfield Town. We're gonna get Max in now, guys. Hello, Max. How you doing, mate? You all right?
Yeah, I'm not too bad. How are you?
Do you enjoy the intro?
Yeah, it's different. That I like it.
Mate, I did. Well, just got rid of it.
Yeah, it was getting to the point where it was on the sides. I've never ever had it so long on the sides. And my dad,
It's mad, isn't it? Like when you get like a fade at the barbers, suddenly when you don't, it's like even just like a little bit, you're like, what's going on here?
my dad, mate, it grows so fast as well. I said to my dad, "Can you give me a little trim?" And it was so bad. I was like, "Mate, just get rid of it." But I don't mind. You don't have to. No maintenance, no nothing. Easy as you like.
That's it, mate. I've got a big nose, so I can't do it. You see, you know what I mean? I've got to keep the hair on. That's it. So I might be the only Grealish lookalike involved this weekend. What do you reckon, Max?
Talking about Grealish already. Here we
go. Yeah. So obviously the game at the weekend, massive game. Max, it feels like, I mean, I've spoken to you, it must have been 4 or 5 times now about Leeds. Is this a rivalry to you now?
I mean, I was reading the comments before we came on, and
it's vicious.
Grealish, this I'll never hate Villa. Oh, I hate Villa. I despise them. Like, it's weird, isn't it? It's weird how it's happened. Like, it all comes back to that game in the Championship, doesn't it? You all know the one, the disallowed goal, whatever happened. It's not a rivalry. I don't hate Leeds. I can sit down and watch them and say, oh, I really want them to lose. That's not how I just enjoy watching them. And they're just like any other team, but that doesn't take away from the fact that I really, really would like to beat them at the weekend. Like I said, I enjoy watching them. They're a breath of fresh air in the Premier League. So it's not a rivalry. I just think there's an extra bit of spice to the game whenever they play.
Is there an additional bit of spice because Villa having a very good season, but there is this year a lot of media attention around Leeds. And is that something that gives Villa fans a little bit of niggle this year, do you reckon?
A little bit. I mean, if anyone out there has seen my Twitter, like this season, I've been out there and saying, Bielsa gets all this praise. I'm not sure why. But, you're 10th in your first year back in the Premier League in however long it's been. And, you're having a great season. And I think, I was a little bit naive when you first came up and I was like, why is Bielsa getting all this praise and things like that? But now I'm seeing that the fact he's turned bog standard Championship players like Luke Ayling, Dallas, Bamford into these, decent Premier League players. Bamford scored 13 goals in the Premier League when, he was dished out to Burnley a couple of years ago. Like, it's fair play to him, like what he's done there. Look, you're having a great season. This is the first time I think if you win at the weekend, you could overtake us. So I'm a little bit worried about that one. But yeah, it's gonna be a great game either way.
I think it's the first time, if we did, it'd be the first time we do the double over since 74, 75, I think. So it's a massive, so I think since even the 90s, like obviously, like even like early noughties as well, us with like Kjell, Smith, Viduka, obviously you in that period, like Merson, Gareth Barry, Lee Hendry. So I think always there's been like a massive sort of, it's not been a rivalry. I think I agree with you, mate. I think it's just a professional rivalry that was heated up massively in the Championship, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's the thing. I can't remember whether it was 94 or 96. I beat you in the League Cup final as well. Yeah. It's just two big clubs, isn't it? I mean, going around the country last year following Villa going to Bournemouths and Norwiches and places like that, just to have a nice, massive club back in the Premier League like Leeds that isn't a top 6 club that is just a nothing club like a Man United, things like that. It's just exciting. It's something new. And I'm glad you're in the Premier League. I'm glad you're doing well because I want sides like Leeds to stay up in the Premier League and do well rather than, I'm being disrespectful here saying like Bournemouth and Brighton. But do you know what I mean? Like,
we all try to avoid saying it, but we've all got the same mindset, haven't we?
Yeah, exactly. But no, look, I'm looking forward to the game. And if fans were in the ground, mate, I could only imagine 5:30 on a Saturday night. Could you imagine? Oh, I'd be
never had anything against Villa until.
Can I just say that I don't follow Gabby on Twitter? Like, even he annoys me. I'm a Villa fan.
Max is. This might sound really biased, but Max is very level-headed. Yeah, I speak to Max. He's a very level-headed fan. I like to think I'm sort of the equivalent on the Leeds side. But Max, Gabby Agbonlahor, what's going on there, mate? He's a strange one, isn't he?
I mean, I don't mind the odd wind-up on Twitter, but it's always about Leeds. It's weird. It's always about Leeds. And like when he was pointing at the TV when you lost to Crawley or whatever it was, it's like, Gabby, it's fun and games and stuff, but like tone it down a little bit. So I don't follow him on Twitter or Instagram now because he annoys me a little bit. I mean, fair play because he just annoys Leeds fans, but it's a strange one that.
I also think like I've got a load of family in Sutton Coldfield in Birmingham, and we've obviously mentioned Gabby because there's a Leeds Villa link in my family, and we've also mentioned Gabby, and they're just like, yeah, literally half of Villa fans don't even follow him. And I think it's a big thing that not all Leeds fans think that every single Villa fan sings from the same hymn sheet as Gabby Agbonlahor. It's just not the case.
Yeah, you got to have a bit of perspective. We're not all like that, I promise. Yeah, it's just great. I mean, let him crack on. He's staying relevant and stuff like that. So
that's it, isn't it? That's it. Right, mate. Well, I guess we've got to get into the game, haven't we? I mean, last time out, I mean, I tell you what, Max, I was just completely surprised by that. I think we were talking, I was sort of fearing the worst, really. You were on absolute fire, and you still are to an extent, but you were at that point, you were blowing teams away. I think a couple of weeks before, he'd smashed Liverpool 7-2, absolutely tearing people apart. Grealish was on fire. I mean, he's been on fire all season, really, but I mean, what did you make of that? Because we came to Elland Road once again. Phillips was out, which he seems to be quite often against Villa. Phillips was out, and we had a couple of other injuries as well. And I think we had Grealish with the Mersey run, and Watkins had a really good chance. But aside from that, mate, I mean, I'm trying to take my bias hat off here, but it was a real lesson, really, for Villa, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a really, really bad game from our point of view. I think it was really early on in the season, wasn't it? I think it was like fifth or sixth game for us, and we'd won the first four, like you said, just beat Liverpool 7-2 a couple of weeks previously. And I think if we won that game, we could have gone top of the league. So I think there might have been a little bit of complacency there when that game came around. But I think you just caught us off guard. I think, like you said, before the game, Leeds had a lot of injuries and things like that. And it might have been a little bit of complacency, like I said, but you just blew us away, absolutely blew us away. I think in the first half, it was 0-0 at half time, wasn't it? And it was a fairly tight first half. In that second half, Grealish had the run at 0-0, like you said. But from then on, Bamford hat-trick, absolutely tore us apart. Fair play to him. A couple of really, really good goals in there. And it just taught us a lesson. But I don't think we come up against a side that played like that against us since we've been back in the Premier League. Just all-out intensity for the full 90, 95 minutes, whatever it was. And fully taught us a lesson.
What's it like sort of coming up again? Because I think it's interesting because we get a perspective of, when we're watching it, it's anxiety-ridden, really, because sometimes it can be open. But, I mean, we've had 8 clean sheets. It's just so weird. Like, I think we've had more clean sheets now than Spurs and Arsenal, I think. So it's really weird because we do concede quite a bit of goals, but we score we score a ton as well. What's it like coming up against? And that's not just from let's all look at Leeds, but we all get it from one perspective. It's like, oh my God, like we're gonna concede, we're gonna score. But what is it like facing that sort of intensity?
I think as an opposition fan, all I'm going to think about is the sort of attacking threat that Leeds possess. Okay, I can, put my positive hat on and think, they can always leak a goal. The keeper's slightly dodgy when I've watched it in the defence, leave gaps occasionally. But I'm just focused on that attack, especially watching the last game as well. I watched the Southampton game a couple of days ago, and Rafinha going forward. Just the amount of bodies you get forward. Stuart Dallas scored. Like, where's he come from? He's
a baller this season. Is Dallas? He's on 5.
Fair play to him. Like, I'm nervous. I haven't got nervous a lot this season coming into games, even against your Man Cities, Man United, Chelsea's, the top sides. I haven't got nervous, but for this game, because of just the way you play, and I'm not just coming on a Leeds channel and saying, "Oh, they're the best."
No, you've said it. You've said it to me as well. You've said it to me.
Yeah, I'm just nervous the way they play as well. Based on our last game as well against Leicester, we looked tired, and I don't know why. We had 6 games in 18 days. But since then, we've had Brighton, which we drew 0-0. We had a week leading up to that one. Leicester, we had a week leading up to that one. We've got a week of no games leading up to this one as well. So no midweek games. So you can't blame it on fatigue. But we just looked tired against Leicester. So that worries me a little bit. And that Leeds is just not the side you want to come up against when you're playing average at best and you look knackered every time you play. So I'm nervous, mate.
Obviously, we'll talk about Grealish. I think it's going to be a big topic, that standard. But I want to touch on Matty Cash as well, because he's had a really good season, hasn't he? I mean, is that a massive miss? Is it, Max? Yeah,
massive. I think we let Freddie Gilbert go out on loan in January, who was the first choice last year, which I thought was a little bit weird. So El Mohammadi will play at the weekend at right back. And don't get me wrong, he's steady, he's average, but he's past it, unfortunately. And that worries me massively, arguably more than the Grealish being out, because I think Grealish will be missing in this game. Matty Cash worries me just as much because he's so good defensively. We all saw him at Forest when he was a good winger, but he's so good defensively as well. And he's only been playing at right back for just over a year, I think it is. And he's been brilliant. He's been one of our better players this year. And he's a massive reason why we've got 12, 13 clean sheets, I think it is, in the Premier League. So he's going to be a big miss.
Max, I will say that I do think he struggled against us first time.
Oh yeah, no doubt about that. But anyone was, but in the rest of the season,
in general, we're talking.
Yeah, of course. But he's going to be a big miss. And I think, with Grealish being out, you've got players who can come in and go on the wing, but right back with El Mohammadi, that definitely worries me.
Yeah. Right. So it's going to be. You're thinking it's going to be El Mohammadi then?
Yeah, I don't think there's anyone else. I think there's a youngster called Kesler Hayden who was.
Yeah, I've heard about him.
He plays in the Liverpool FA Cup game. And don't get me wrong, he was decent, but I think you've always got to go with El Mohammadi. He's experienced. He's played in the Premier League, I think, a couple of times this year. So, yeah, I think it'll stick with El Mohammadi.
Yeah, I mean, we're not injury-free, mate. I think it's been the case since 2018, to be honest. I think Rodrigo, Koch, obviously Calvin Phillips, Click. There's a fair few of them. So we're going to be ravaged by it, really. But to be honest, Max, it's one of these things with Leeds now. We just expect it. Shackleton, I think Shackleton could be out as well. But it is one of those where, because there's such a level of versatility with this team that, you could get Bamford filling in at right back and it wouldn't surprise you. You know what I mean? Do you think it's more concerning because Villa have arguably just individual quality everywhere? When you take players like Grealish and Cash out, it sort of really disrupts the unit, because with Leeds, it does disrupt it, but you always get players who just fill in these positions, and it's like a well-oiled machine, if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, exactly. I definitely think Leeds have that little bit more freedom. They don't necessarily stick to their positions and things like that. So I definitely think, if you've got a few injury worries, Leeds are better in sort of dealing with them. With Villa as well, I think we struggle in the midfield massively this year. And not this year, recently. Like John McGinn has been one of our better players in recent years, but it's weird because Ross Barkley as well. I think we've got to talk about him because he's really struggled in the last couple of weeks. He had that injury layoff with his hamstring that he was out for like a month or so, maybe a little bit more. And he's come back and he's been taken off as a sub in 7 games straight. And when he comes off, he's kicking water bottles. He's sitting on the advertising hoardings. Like he looks annoyed. But if you're going to play like that, and you're a caliber player like Ross Barkley, you deserve to get taken off because he's been poor recently. And when you've got a player like Jack Grealish out, all eyes go on him for creativity. And he's just not performed since he's been in. And you'd think a player like that, he'd want to get in that England squad for the summer, and he's just not performing. So it worries me. The midfield worries me. So yeah, not looking forward to it, mate.
The thing is that you've still got obviously with our midfield, it's if Click's not available, Shackleton's not available, it's going to have to be the moving of parts again. We're probably going to see Tyler Roberts, which I don't think we've seen again. We might have seen against Villa in the first game of the Championship, I think. But we're going to have to move bits around again. You're probably going to get Dallas coming into central midfield. I think he was against your left back last time. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be a really sort of intriguing game. And we were speaking off air, and you were talking about Matt Targett, and you were saying that Targett's actually been one of your better players.
Yeah, I think when we did this, I think we did a preview for the first game, didn't we? Or we talked about it on the channel. And you asked me, would left back be your weak spot? And I was sort of saying, yeah, Matt Targett would be able to get at him. But I think he's been one of our better players recently, if not our best players. And he's one of the players who suffered with COVID at the start of the year. He'd come out and said that. And since he's come back, he's been our best player. I think he said in a few interviews he's worked on his defensive game, because he's always been good going forward. He can always whip in a great cross, but defensively, that's why he was worried, and he was a bit of a scapegoat last year. And don't get me wrong, he didn't have the best season by any stretch, but this year he's been fantastic. So I think he's definitely been an integral part in why we've been so good defensively this year. So he's one of the players I do have confidence in, but without Grealish on that left-hand side as well, because Targett and Grealish work so well together on that left-hand side. I think, when you've got Amar El Ghazi there who filled in for Grealish the other day, it just doesn't quite work. But don't get me wrong, Targett's been one of our better players recently, and he's one of the ones that I have full confidence in, which is going to bite me on the arse when he slips on his ass and makes a mistake on Saturday. But
the midfield, it's like, you've still got players like Douglas Luiz. So, is it just that creative spark from midfield? Because there seems to be quite, John McGinn and Douglas Luiz, you look at those two on paper and you think, well, where are the problems? Is it just that creative spark?
Yeah, definitely. I think when we first got promoted, John McGinn was scoring goals all over the place, scored at Tottenham, scored at Arsenal, was really good at getting forward, but we're playing a 4-3-3 now. I think when Grealish was in, it was a 4-2-3-1, and McGinn was sitting with Luiz. But now it's a 4-3-3. Barkley sort of playing as an 8 as well, alongside McGinn and Luiz. So they're just not being allowed to get forward. Don't get me wrong, Luiz is always going to sit, and that's his role. But McGinn, he's so deep all the time, and he's been quite poor as well recently. So yeah, midfield is worrying. I think there's been talk about Nakamba possibly coming in. He filled in for Luiz. I think it was against Newcastle a couple of weeks ago and did a good job. Okay, that was against Newcastle, and they're not the best side in the world. Going to Elland Road is something different, but I think he's got to change it. I don't think you can keep Luiz, McGinn, and Barkley in there. I think at least one of them's got to come out. I wouldn't even be surprised if 2 of them come out. I think the young lad Jacob Ramsey's come on in the last few games and he's looked really bright. He's got a point to prove. He's a young lad, especially with being no Grealish. We need a creative spark. Sanson as well, signed him in January for £15 million. I think we signed him at, towards the end of January, and you're never going to throw him straight in, but every single game he's had 10 minutes there and 5 minutes there. You're not going to make an impact like that. So I think, is Elland Road the right place to throw someone in like that who hasn't, played a lot of football in the Premier League? I don't know, but I think Dean Smith has got to do something with that midfield, because that's definitely been our weak spot in the last few games.
Yeah, no, it has been. Me and you've spoken about the midfield, and it's a strange one because you do look at a lot of quality in there, but a position that's been outstanding for you has been the recruitment of Emiliano Martinez, hasn't it? It was talk of us really, but he's not. I don't know why, but he's just not a Leeds target for some reason. Probably because he's on about 100 grand a week. But he's been phenomenal, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's hands down been our best player this season. I think he's probably been the best signing in the Premier League. I know Sky have put out a few reports saying is Rafinha the best signing of the summer, but I think over the season as a whole, I think it's got to be Emiliano Martinez. Or you've got to go back 2 games to the Brighton game where we drew 0-0, and it was all down to him. Made countless brilliant saves.
It was phenomenal, wasn't he?
He's just pulled out world-class saves in every single game, and there's no doubt we'd be far down the table without him. He's just been absolutely brilliant, and from where he's come from, he's had loan spells, Reading, Wolves, he went to Spain, I think, Getafe, I think it was, and finally at the age of 28 he's found somewhere to settle at Villa and be first choice in the Premier League, and he's made the step up from Arsenal, because we're above them, but he's just been fantastic this year. His distribution, he catches everything as well. I think he's punched 1 ball this year. I saw that stat. So he just catches everything. He just makes the defence feel so safe. Because if you're playing with Emiliano Martinez behind you, you've got so much confidence. So hands down our best player this year. And yeah, I'm so confident in him.
Mate, it's the most important. I think it's overlooked, but it's the most important position on the pitch, because your goalkeeper feeds confidence into every single person on that pitch, and especially your back line. And there's been it's obvious Villa's back line. You don't look at Villa's back line and think, oh my God, world-class names here, there and everywhere. But Martinez has completely steadied that, hasn't he? Yeah,
definitely. I think last year, we've had goalkeeper issues for a few years, to be fair. We got Pepe Reina in last year, which was desperate with the Tom Heaton injury, and then Orjan Neelan just being horrific. It was just really disappointing. But just to get someone in like that, and okay, he was 16, 18 million, whatever it was, and that's a big fee, but he's more than doubled that now, to be fair. He's been fantastic. And like you said, that back 4 is a unit. They're not individual names. It's the same, apart from Matt Cash, it's the same back 4 that had the second worst defensive record last year, apart from Cash and Martinez. So credit to Dean Smith as well with what he's done there. I think Konsa has been our most improved player in the last year or so. He's absolutely fantastic. And I think, he's got to have a shout for an England spot, arguably more than Mings. I think Mings brings something different in terms of leadership, but Konsa's the more sort of reserve centre-back. He's got a little bit more technical ability. I just think both of them together work really well. And I think defensively has been our best improvement this year compared to last year. It's just been really good to see.
So we'll talk about the 2 best players in a second, but I just want to get your thoughts on Ollie Watkins as well. Watkins is going to cause any defence's problems because no defence likes being pressed, and that guy's been through the Thomas Frank way of it's the thought process where it's just press, press, press. You still see that with Neil Maupay at Brighton. It's that press, 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 and it's from that Brentford ethos. And he seems to be doing the exact same thing and sort of replicating that in the Premier League. Is he as good as you sort of thought?
Yeah, I think he's brilliant. I think he's for £30 million. You go through the replies when we signed. It's like, oh, 30 million. That's an absolute rip-off for a Championship player. But you got to trust Dean Smith. He spotted him at Weston-super-Mare when he was on loan from Exeter, I think it was. Followed him through Exeter and then finally signed him when he was at when Dean Smith was at Brentford. And he sort of followed his career. And I think Dean Smith and Ollie Watkins are sort of a duo that will go everywhere together. They really, really suit each other. And how Dean Smith wants to play, Ollie Watkins will do that brilliantly. I think he's been brilliant this year. He scored 10 goals, a hat-trick against Liverpool. He went on a 9-game run where he didn't score, but he was just unlucky. He's always in the right position. He was just unlucky in that spell. So he could easily have had more than 10 goals. He's been shafted by VAR as well on countless times this season, as everyone has. Bamford as well, I know. But
Bamford should be on about 16, I think.
Yeah, I know, yeah. But yeah, he's been brilliant. He's good at going down the wings as well. He's just so mobile. And I think that's something that we didn't have last year. We lacked athleticism. I think Dean Smith has come out and said that. I think Ollie Watkins is absolutely perfect. He's played as a winger before. He loves getting down the wing. His hold-up play, he's not, when you look at him, he's not exactly massive, is he? But his hold-up play is really, really impressive. He's got a bit of everything. He's fast as well. He's good in the air. He's an all-round striker, and I think he can only get better. He's really, really good.
So the two sort of big boys from both sides, and I mean, our big boy, I think he came on against you, like our star man, Rafinha. We didn't really talk about him last time because he'd just come on. We'd signed him, but we'd not seen a lot of him. He was getting sort of indoctrinated into the Bielsa system, really. I think I've said it to you on Messenger as well, Max. He's, I mean, I tell you, I'll get your thoughts first. I mean, have you seen much of him?
Yeah, I watched the game against Southampton. I've watched quite a few games. I watched the Wolves game as well last Friday night, and he scares me. I think he's the player that we don't want to come up against. I think Harvey Barnes the other day when we played Leicester, he gave El Mohammadi, he just absolutely ran him ragged all game. And Rafinha's, I think he's faster than Harvey. It's his pace that is so scary. And I think he's a bit of a live wire as well. We've got Bertrand Traore, who I think is similar because he's a bit of a wild card. You never really know what you're going to get, which, you like as a fan. You like watching players like that. But Rafinha is his pace, is his free kicks, just everything about him. You never know what you're going to get. He's so skillful. And like I said, that's just not the player you want a 32-year-old El Mohammadi coming up against. So, mate, it worries me massively, and I think he's going to cause us massive problems at the weekend. And his energy as well, just everything. He's just so admirable. Like, as a fan, that's the sort of player you want to watch. His pace, his energy. He's closing down at the end of the Southampton game as well. You're 3-0 up in the 95th minute, and he's running from the halfway line to chase down the goalkeeper. Like, yeah, fair play to him. He's been brilliant this season. And,
how do you just a quick one, because I know you've done it with Grealish, but how do you keep hold of players like that? Because we're all really worried that summer's going to come along and we've got a fight on our hands.
Oh, I don't know, man. That's the thing. I think if you're going to shut down a player like that, you've just got to get two men on him. I think that's what West Ham did against Grealish. That's what Leicester were going to do against Grealish until they found out he wasn't in the starting lineup. So you double up on players like that, but against Leeds, you can't really afford to double up because they get so many bodies forward. You just can't really afford to do that. So I'd love to see what Dino's planning in order to cope with Rafinha and the bodies that Leeds get forward. But yeah, I'm scared.
I think he'll because normally, he plays on the right, but I think if Cash is out, I think that'll be where he'll target Rafinha. To be quite honest with you, which will be interesting to see what happens. But so I mean, we've been on 30 minutes and we've still not spoken about Jack Grealish. So I guess I've been just trying to delay it just because I don't want to sound like I'm obsessed. Let's talk about him then. I mean, we've spoken about it, mate. There's a rhetoric at the minute. What happens when you take Jack Grealish out of this Villa side? Does it sort of fall apart?
I don't know. We just don't have a player like that. It's really worrying. I think El Ghazi came in at the weekend, and he's just so inconsistent. El Ghazi is a confidence player, and he just hasn't got any at the moment. So taking Grealish out that side is a massive miss. He won't play against Leeds, I don't think. I'm 95% sure that he won't play.
98 yesterday, so you've gone down.
You never know. You never know. But, yeah, the club haven't come out and said what the injury is. Grealish is a strange one with injuries because every year he sort of has like a big-ish injury, kidney injuries, shin injuries, sort of weird ones as well that he's out for like months. Oh, he'll be back next week. He'll be back next week. And then every week, sort of the manager just delays it. So it's worrying. And Matt, I really don't know what we can really do without him because you lose that creativity. And, you know, whenever a Villa player's in possession, they're always looking for Jack. And I know since last year we've got quality in like Ross Barkley, Traore, players like that, you know, that take the weight off Jack's shoulders. But with a player of that caliber that is by far and away the best player at the club, it's when you take him out the side, you're always gonna miss him. And you could see that against Leicester. Like, don't get me wrong, I think we still would have conceded those 2 goals if Jack was on the pitch, but we're always going to miss him. And he's added goals and assists as well. His goal contributions have been fantastic this year as well, which I think he struggled with in the past. You know, he's scoring, he's assisting a lot this year. And if you take that out the side, it's a worrying one. And I worry for Ollie Watkins as well, because him and Jack have been great together this year. And with Barkley not performing as well, it does worry me with Ollie Watkins being starved of that the supply line that he needs to actually perform. So I don't know whether he's going to stick with El Ghazi at the weekend. I'm not sure. I think you might bring Trezeguet in, who hasn't been in the side for a while because of injuries. But Trezeguet's work rate is fantastic. I think defensively as well, his work rate, he never ever stops running. So I wouldn't be surprised if he comes in, maybe for El Ghazi, just because you need that work rate against Leeds. But yeah, with Jack coming out the side, it's a worrying time.
I think I tweeted out as well, mate. I think he'd struggle on our pitch. I'm not going to lie. Our pitch is a bit of a problem at the minute. I'm not sure Jack could be great.
What's going on there? Is it a temporary pitch or what?
Yeah, I think Daniel Levy's just poured oil over it before selling it to us. But yeah, he's basically bought it for 300 grand, and that pitch costs more than Luke Ayling. But yeah, we've had to do it because of the drainage system. It's horrendous at Elland Road, and it's been like that for years. But they've not replaced the pitch. And they were gonna in summer, but obviously everything happened with COVID, so they weren't able to do it. So they've had to. So I think in the summer they've got a 1.8 million project where they completely replace it. But Max, it's horrendous.
Chops, clumps of grass everywhere, isn't there?
But like clip went off the other night. And he just sort of jerked on his and he's had a bit of a reoccurring hip thing, but you saw him jerk and his foot got caught in the pitch. Romeo, I don't know if you saw Romeo got taken off.
Yeah,
that was all the pitch. He just got his foot clogged in the pitch. And I was saying earlier, like, if you get someone like Kevin De Bruyne or Bruno Fernandes going down and injured for the season, they're going to put a sanction in on Leeds.
I know, yeah, it is bad. It is so bad.
We'll get us down somehow. But yeah, mate. Well, I think that's it. I think I'll ask you for. I'm gonna have to ask you, and I did last time. What's your score prediction?
I'm not going to come on here and predict us to lose. It could easily go either way. You never know with Leeds this season. You never know with Villa at the moment as well. We're so inconsistent.
Got to be positive, aren't you?
Yeah, I think based on what we've seen, there's surely going to be goals, isn't there? Would I take a point? I don't know. I'm going to go 2-2. I think there'll be goals. It should be a nice open game. But yeah, 2-2.
2-2. Desmond. Do I see that? Do I see a Desmond? I could see a Desmond here. You know what? I'm going to go for Villa going 2-0 up and then Leeds scoring 3. That's what I'm going to go for. I'm going to
years ago at Villa Park.
I'm going to go for the 3-2. That was a brilliant vlog you did then. Absolutely brilliant. I just remember the swear word and the dubbing over it.
Oh, that was horrific, man. It was El Mohammadi as well, wasn't it? He headed it to roof. Oh,
that was the most bizarre defensive clearance I've ever. Literally, the ball was going nowhere, was it? It was going straight out of play, heads it straight back to roof. Limbs. There you go. 3-1, 2-1, 5. Okay, they're all coming now. Brilliant.
No Leeds.
Hey, you'd have it on your channel. I know you would. Yeah. Okay. Brilliant. Right. Okay. I'm gonna. We do a preview, as you know, Max, and I'm gonna put my preview out tomorrow. So we've got a little competition going on. But mate, where can everybody find you? I mean, they'll know anyway. But go on.
Yeah, YouTube, Villa on Tour. I do match reactions as well. So if we do lose at the weekend, Leeds fans, tune in. That'll be a good watch. Yeah, YouTube, Villa on Tour.
It's going to go like that. Woo!
Well, it always does at Leeds, to be fair. Videos always do well. So yeah, YouTube, Villa on Tour, Twitter, Villa on Tour. That's it, mate.
Good stuff. Right, I'll get his link in the description, but make sure you go check Max out, guys. The most balanced Villa fan out there, and I love chatting to him. So, Max, cheers for joining me, mate. Thanks, everybody, for joining on the chat, and we will see you in a bit. Cheers.